Kayla Hulbert. I am interviewing World War II veteran Guilio at 2040 Meads Creek Road, Painted Post, New York, 14870 on February 20th, 2003. The time is 1 o'clock p.m. What did you, how did you feel, at the time of your experience? And why don't you tell me a little bit about your training and that type of thing?
Well, at the time I went into service, I thought maybe they'd give me a chance to finish the 2 months high school first, Mm-hmm. But they said, no, we got to have you right away. So I was sent down to Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and I went for 13 weeks of training as a gun mechanic, artillery and rifle, pistols, or whatever, just regular gun mechanic. And after my 13 weeks, I finally ended up in England. I went across on Queen Mary, and they threw me in a replacement pool. So I got in with the 803rd Tank Destroyer, and they already had a gun mechanic in a platoon that they put me. So they kept me anyway, and I went to school as a radio operator, and I ended up as a rifleman, an assistant driver of armored car, and that's what I stayed in the rest of the war. We done our training in Barnstaple, England. We spent 12 months there, and we was going up and down the coast between England and Ireland, and on landing barges, and finally the day come when they said that the invasion was going to be coming, and we got ready, and we took off for Normandy.
Do you remember arriving at Normandy? What was it like?
Well, it was rough. We got on Normandy, and the tide was down. We had to wait for the tide to come in to get the ship closer to shore. And while we was there, the Germans, they were bombing and coming over nights while we stayed on ship. And once we got off, then we got pinned down for another day before we could get ourselves off the beach, because they only had 3 miles of beachhead. Mm-hmm. And I always said there was enough room to turn a tractor trailer around on it, but when you get a 36 tanks and armored cars and jeeps and everything else on there, I mean, that's not leaving too much room in one place.
Right.
And that's all right. They had 3 miles of beachhead, and it stretched out all the way up to Holland, and where the British were, the First Army and things. And but once we got on the open road where we could move, we stayed. We helped out maybe the 29th Infantry. We done whatever they wanted us to do. We moved on, maybe the 101st Airborne or somebody like that, and we worked for the 82nd Airborne. We was Well, originally, what they called us was a bastard outfit. I mean, we just went from this one to that one. We didn't have no place to call home.
Right.
Towards the end of the war, we got put with the 3rd Army, and we spent a lot of time with the 4th Infantry and the 5th Infantry, and General Patton's Army. And that's when war came to a screeching halt.
Okay.
We spearheaded through from Paris. After we got to Paris, we spearheaded from Paris through Belgium and part of Holland, and got to the Siegfried line and waited for the rest of the infantry and them to catch up with us. And then we finally went in the Siegfried line, across the Siegfried line.
Okay. What are your most memorable experiences of, basically being in Europe and what you experienced?
Well, the most is trying to stay alive. Seeing soldiers drop all around me, and wondered whether it was my turn, I'd be talking to somebody just like talking to you now, and all of a sudden you turn around and you look again and he's laying down on the ground. Somebody picked him up, I mean, it could have been me as well as it could have been him. And they dropped leaflets, same as we did for them, trying to get them to surrender. They dropped them for us to read and quit, but it didn't work. I mean, I got one in here when we was in Aachen, Germany. That's one of them. They dropped on us, trying to get us to surrender, that they was going to whoop us. Well, they almost did a few times.
I can't believe they actually did stuff like this. Was this one of the ones that the Germans dropped?
Yeah.
Really?
I had a couple other ones, but I can't remember what happened to them. That's the only one I found, and that's all discolored now.
Yeah. So you were telling me earlier about what happened when you were in Czechoslovakia, about the Czechoslovakian member of your unit. Were there many other casualties in your unit?
No, there was just that one died, got killed, and there was one wounded, I guess, if I remember right. It's supposed to be in here anyway. It tells
pictures, are they of your time that you spent over in Europe? Are there some in here of you and some of your, your fellow battalion members?
You want this?
Oh, no, that's yours. You can keep it. But if you'd like, I can take a picture of it before we go.
I could keep this, I could keep that. You know what will happen to a lot of this stuff. Those kids of mine, they're not going to worry about it, My oldest boy, he never got in there. He had trouble with his feet and things. And the youngest one, he lives up in Monterey. Well, he's 55 something now. And he was in Vietnam. And he come back with malaria, but he finally got that with. And, but you can have that if you want it. It's
Okay, well,
something to remember.
Okay, well, that's up to you. I mean, it's definitely...
Because, there's pictures in here, there's some in here that I took when I was down in North Carolina. There's some, all those Jews and the people that the Germans starved. There's pictures of them in here.
Now, did you actually, while you were over there, were you there when they liberated any of the, the concentration camps with like the Jews and the Polish victims?
I never got by any of the concentration camps, but we liberated a lot of the towns, Don't ask me how to remember what the names of them all are, because I was just a young snap and come off a farm, and I wasn't interested in a lot of that stuff. To me, it was more like a game, hide and seek, trying to keep from getting hit or have them catch me or something, but it wasn't funny lots of times, but when they're young, you don't care,
Right.
And some of those guys, when I joined up with them in England, some were near 38 years old and they could have come home. They told them that if they wanted to come home, get discharged, anybody over 38, well, after going through training and all that, as long as they did, they stayed, And I always kidded them. Some of them are 89 years old, and I said I joined up with a bunch of old men, But I was only 18, and I couldn't even vote when we got ready to go to France. I couldn't even vote yet. Today you vote, 18?
Yes.
I couldn't vote then.
Right.
I was going after 21,
Right.
But, oh well, it's a great life. I met my brother over there. I posted that. I got a picture in here. These are pictures of him, but I got one big one. Probably in the other book. These are all a lot of these people that were in and in service with me.
Do you have, you were telling me about the one guy that you met that was in your battalion that you met up with later. Did you have like any other close friends or anything that were with you all through the war?
No, he was the only one. He was the only one. The other ones that went to service with me, some of them ended up in Fort Bragg, North Carolina, but they ended up in different outfits, and I never got to see them no more. There was a couple guys that I met back on a train coming out of Williamsport. They lived in Wellsboro. I can't remember their names neither. One of them was a Cruttenden, but what their first names was, but they came out of Wellsboro, and they went in service with me, and two of them, I met them on the train coming back out of Williamsport, coming towards Elmira.
That's a nice picture. Beautiful. It's got the geese and everything in the background.
This is my brother that killed in Korea. This was my graduation picture in Elkland High School.
Now, those were taken before you left to go in the service? No, those were they?
This year was taken in service.
Now that the tape recorder's running, do you just want to explain a little bit more about kind of what you said about the different places that you guys were in Europe? You know, maybe explain a little bit more specifically what your unit did or something like that from what you remember.
When we spearheaded, got into the Siegfried line, that's when we got into that battle of Aachen there. I got a thing, a letter here where the Germans, they hated fighting in the Hurricane Force and some of those places themselves, because if you ever been up by Burdett, you know how to walk in up way up on top of the hill, where those huge forest is up there, just evergreens and all. It's so thick that, well, that's what the Hurricane Force was like. There were just little narrow cow trails, like you might well say, log roads, you know, going through them. And when we got in there, all the Germans that were in there and all the Americans, out of all of our tanks, we ended up, I think we had three that was still running, and out of 36, they whipped it. They've done pretty good job of it. and so that we did with them. But Aachen was the same way. They bombarded us to try to get us to leave them alone, and we went right after them, and we finally got the upper hand on them, and we moved on, and we came back down to Luxembourg, and when we got back into Luxembourg, they mustered up enough force to put that drive on at the Battle of the Bulge, and they almost got the upper hand on that, and because nobody was expecting it, you know, and we were pretty well beat from being up there in the forest, and but once we got them retreating from Bastogne, we just kept right after them. We never let up, and our 803rd tank destroyer, they were the first ones across the Rhine down below Frankfurt, and so we ended up in Czechoslovakia when the war ended, and that was May 5th. May 5th, 1945. That's 56 plus years. You know, it makes some of us guys really teed off, because here is 56 years, okay? I mean, I come home, and there was quite a few of them. Oh boy, you guys went over there and you had a blast for yourself. I don't know where they got the idea we had a blast for ourselves. I mean, we put our life on the line just like anybody else would. And my dad, he wasn't happy about it at all. And when I come home, he didn't care whether he saw me or not. He said, you should have been dead. You should have died over there. And I said, why? I said, why do you feel that way? Those poor people didn't hurt you. You went over there and you killed them off and destroyed their property, you know. Well, he had a reason. I mean, I probably might have felt the same way, because he had his dad still living in Italy, and he had his stepsister, see. And they survived it. They survived the war. And I came home in 1945, like I said, before Thanksgiving. My grandfather died around December the 12th, 1945. But he survived the war. And my dad's stepsister, she's still living with her daughter and her husband in the same town, the same place Dad was born. And he got to go over there in 1979, I think it was. He went over and see him, and before he got sick and passed away. But my grandfather lived, he was 92 years old, and my dad was 92 when he died. And but I think that's why he felt the way he did. War does funny things, you know.
Yeah.
he said the one that's in Wellsboro that stayed here in the States going to school all the time. He said, I didn't know whether you was in combat or not. I said, what are you talking about? I said, we've written letters. I was telling you where I was at different times, you know, someplace in France or someplace in Germany or someplace like that. Said, how come you don't remember now? You talked just if I was in the Boy Scouts or something, you know? I wish there was.
So was it nice when your brother was in, when you got to see him and stuff when you were over here?
The one I got the picture of, he, every time he saw a tank outfit, he had to run over and see whether it was mine or not, you know. So, thought he'd catch up with me. And this once in France, we was already moving on towards Belgium, and this tank outfit moved in alongside of the 94th Infantry, and he took off across this field going to check on us. The Germans bombarded it with mortars, and it didn't kill him, but he had shrapnel on his legs and the side of his body, and knocked a few teeth out. And he said he laid right here and didn't move, and they finally quit, you know. Or if he had moved or something, they would probably kept right after him. And so he finished the war. He was all right, and he come home and he still had shrapnel working out of his legs. Your body gets rid of the foreign matter in you. And, but he lives out in Missouri, Kansas City, Missouri.
So did you actually get married, and you got married and had kids after you came back?
I got married after I came back. I went back to working for the tannery, Elkland tannery. I worked in there after school before I went to service. And so when I came home, I went down to join the American Legion. The guy was guard down there in the tannery. And while I stood there talking to him, they were hiring. The people were sitting in there. I didn't realize that that's what they were doing, but the guy came in and he told the other guys, you come back tomorrow, you come back this day and that day, and we'll see what we can find. And I was still standing there, you know, and he said, when do you want to start? And I said, I don't care, anytime. He said, start tomorrow. And two of the guys were sitting there just getting ready to get up and go after he went. Oh, they peeled me, you know, because said, they've been going back and forth for 2 weeks and they ain't got a job yet, and you walk in here today and he tells you when you ought to go back. Well, I said I worked there before I went to service. And I worked 1 month, I guess, and I quit. And I went down to Corning Glassworks and got a job down there in Marlboro. and I worked 33 years down there. And that's where I met my wife when I started working down there. We got married in 1947, April, and it would have been 55 years if she had lived another 4 months. It would have been 55 years we've been married. Yep.
I kind of skipped a question on here, a segment. When you guys were in the actual camp, when you were on the battlefield, like what was the living conditions like? Like what did you eat? What did you do to pass time?
Well, eating, sometimes it was good, sometimes it wasn't so good, okay? I don't know, I think it's more the way they put it together in a hurry. We call a lot of it shice on shingles and one thing the other, you know. At breakfast time you got the same things over and over again, and a lot of it was dehydrated food. Now what we done when we got overseas in these different countries, we had our sea rations, okay, dry food and canned food, but we took and if we went into town, somebody had a big garden going, they're gone, and all the people disappeared. I mean, I don't know whether they went to another town where the fighting was going by already, or whether they was underground hiding or what, but a lot of them had gardens and stuff was on them. We helped ourselves to the gardens and all, and had fresh vegetables or things we carried along with us and ate. And once in a while we find a chicken coop. Poor chicken had to die. We'd find some eggs. I think that too, what hurt my dad, you know. But he wouldn't, he come right out and told me, he said, you're home. I don't want to hear nothing about the war. I don't want to talk about it around me. And, you know, from that day on, I shut my mouth and I never did talk about it. My neighbor there, Ron Perry, was principal of East High School. He'd come over and he was always helping me do something. And one day he said to me, Julio, he said, was you in service? And I said, yeah. And he said, how come you never talk about it? There's nothing to talk about. I said, my wife, she didn't want to hear nothing about it. My oldest boy, he was trying to tell me, he said, Ma told me not to ask you no questions about the war. I said, I would answer them if you wanted to know something. Or he never much looked at the pictures, you know. My youngest one, very few times we sat down and mentioned anything about the war. I'd watch a war movie or something and he'd do the same, and we might talk about something we just saw in a war movie, but we never got into talking about it. This sergeant out in Independence, he's still fighting the war. I mean, I don't know, he don't give it up. Send me a thing about the Hulbert force. And I can't remember what I done, but I got things in here from the Time magazine where they had how many casualties and things that we had, you know. But, right there. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. You could have that if you want to. I mean, not going to do me no good.
Are you sure you don't want to keep this stuff?
Huh?
Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah.
When you guys were in, you know, like in camp and stuff, did anybody pull like any pranks or anything like that?
Do what?
Did anybody pull like any pranks or to try and do anything humorous to other people or anything?
We pull them on each other, but I never, all that other stuff, you don't even want to talk about. But, now there was one old guy, he was 38 years old. I say old, you know, because we were old. A lot of us were young, but when we was in England, he had relatives up in Scotland that he got past, and he went up there to see, you know. We landed in Glasgow, Scotland. We went on to Queen Mary, and it took us 6 days. She zigzagged all the way, so the German U-boats couldn't zero in on her with their torpedoes. And it was nice and fast. But coming back, we got on one of those Henry Kaiser's victory ship, they called them back then. And we wasn't just 2 or 3 days out, and we had a 14-foot crack in the bottom of the damn thing already, slapping the waves. Ocean was rough. We pulled out of down to Marcel's, France, way down by the Rock of Gibraltar, down in there, and took us 16 days. Where on the Queen Mary, it only took 6 days. And it didn't even give you time to think about getting sick going. But coming back, oh gee, stop that damn thing and never make it just like a little papa, you know. Get it. I was pulling them people coming back, and with the sailors, and either you hang on to the railing on the ship, and 30-foot waves, you'll be way up here and you look down there, you swear there was no bottom down there.
Right.
But we made it back. got down to Virginia, they discharged us right off the bat.
Okay, well, is there anything else that you can think of that you'd like to add that we haven't covered?
Oh, there'd probably be a lot of little things, you know, that it'd come back to you.
Right. Well, if you can't think of anything now, I mean, you can always give me a call, and if you want to set up, you know, like a second interview.
Give me, write your name down.
Okay.
Here's these people that French town. I don't remember just where it was. And, these people all come crowding around, you know, glad to see you and glad to be liberated. And this woman, oh, I'd say she was probably in her late 20s or early 30s. And she walked up to me and she handed me that. And she spoke broken English, but it was all written in, I think it was French. And I still got it. I just saw it here a couple days ago, and I'm going to have to try to get out, find out just where I said it now, and have somebody translate that. I was going to do it a long time ago.